Are you desiring more out of life? More love, more connection, more experience, just more aliveness? Well, that is your soul calling you, and together we are going to uncover those soul desires and help you bridge the gap between your physical life and your true soul self. Welcome to the Suddenly Spiritual podcast. My name is Emily. I'm an intuitive, a psychic medium, and someone who recently and very suddenly awakened to spirituality. On this podcast, we are going to talk all about connecting with your soul to live your fullest, most beautiful life. We're going to talk about spirituality from the perspective of the everyday person. It's my goal that you feel seen and supported on this journey of discovering your soul and awakening to the incredible world of spirit. Let's get started. Hello, sweet friends, and welcome to another episode of the Suddenly Spiritual Podcast. This is Emily. I am so happy that you're here tuning in for another episode, or maybe for your very first episode, whatever it is. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in, and I'm really excited to spend the next little bit chatting with you all about spirit. And today we're going to be talking all about how to see the gift within your struggle. We're going to talk about how to better understand why we experience difficulties in our life and how we can learn to work with those difficulties instead of resisting them, struggling against them, and making things super hard, because that's generally what we do. But I'm going to show you a way that's going to help you to deal with those difficult experiences, difficult situations, deal with them in a way that allows you to work with them to make things maybe not necessarily easier, because truly life is really difficult sometimes, but it is going to teach you how to work with those experiences so that you can have that experience without feeling like a victim, but while still feeling like you have some control over your life and feeling like you are the main character of your life, because that is truly what you are. You don't have to feel like you're a victim to the circumstances that life brings you. Instead, I want to show you how you can manage how you choose to receive the experiences that come into your life and choose how to respond to them in a thoughtful way, in a way that promotes growth, in a way that promotes healing, and in a way that benefits you forever. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. Before we dive in, I just want to say hello. I'm Emily. I have been doing this podcast for a couple months now already. It's been so amazing getting to record this podcast and getting to connect with so many people about spirituality. I don't really have anyone in the real world that I talk to spirituality about. So getting to talk to all of you, say all of the things that I believe and that I've been experiencing, it is so meaningful to me. And I'm just really happy to have you here with me. If you want to connect deeper, if you want more information about the topics that we are talking about, join me over on Instagram. I just started a brand new little baby account over there, and I'm sharing all kinds of stuff to help support you on your spiritual journey, sharing my own spiritual experiences. I'm planning to start a series soon all about the different signs I've received from spirit and just stories about different signs that have come into my life, because I think that is so fun to talk about. And some of them are super ridiculous and funny. So I can't wait to share that stuff with you. And if you want to be a part of that, follow me over on Instagram. My handle over there is Suddenly Spiritual. So just at Suddenly Spiritual. And that is me. And I look forward to getting to know you better. Now let's dive in. So today, like I said, we are talking about when we feel difficulty in our life. We're talking about when we experience struggle and how we can better handle those situations, how we can sort of shift our perspective when it comes to life being freaking hard. Because the reality is sometimes life is super hard, and I don't want to dismiss that fact. I don't want to downplay that. So, throughout this episode, just know that I am not trying to be dismissive of the difficulties that come up in life. I understand that there are some really hard situations that we all have to face in our lifetime, and they're all varied and unique to our own life experience. And I'm not diminishing that. I just want to provide you with another way to handle these difficulties that allows you to move forward, to grow, and to really, we're going to talk about seeing the gift in those difficult experiences, not diminishing the fact that they happened, not denying that things are hard, but seeing how we can work with that experience to move forward toward a more positive life, a more expansive life, toward a life that allows the growth that our soul is desiring us to experience in this lifetime. So, we are going to talk about shifting out of struggling against life and moving into accepting the difficulty of life and working with that difficulty. We're going to talk about how to see the gift within difficult situations. And my intention is that by pointing this out, it will lead you out of a victim mentality and into a life where you're the main character, where you have control over how you receive the situations and experiences that are being brought to you. And you then choose thoughtfully how you want to respond. So instead of life happening to you, we're going to paint a picture where you are happening to life, where you're not just a victim to whatever comes to you, but you are in control, you have autonomy, and you are happening to life. I hope that makes sense. It's really my intention to help you learn how to bring back power and autonomy to areas of your life where you've maybe felt powerless. And with all of this being said, with me talking about being a victim and things like that, I'm not just like trying to point out like, oh, you're acting like a victim. That's not what I'm saying. One of the things that I have struggled with the most, I would say, in my personal development journey, in my spiritual journey, is learning how to step out of a victim mentality, because I lived pretty much my entire life, even now, really feeling like I'm a victim to the world around me, like I'm a victim to circumstance. And learning to step out of that mentality has really changed things for me. But I think it's going to be a lifelong journey for me, because there are so many situations constantly coming up, even now. I first learned about this concept of victim mentality and started challenging it. That first happened probably 6, 8 years ago. And so it's something I've been working on for such a long time. And even like today, currently, there are still situations that come up that bring out that victimhood in me, that bring out that part of me that just wants to not feel responsible, but to paint myself as someone who life is happening to, and just sit in that kind of like pity party and act like I have no power. And I'm constantly having to remind myself that that is not true. I do have power. I do have autonomy. I do have the ability to choose the life that I want to lead. I just have to step into that main character role and out of that victim role, out of that feeling that everything is happening to me without my consent, which isn't how I want to live my life anymore. So when I talk about victim mentality, I'm not like pointing fingers or anything. I'm also on this path of making this shift of understanding on a deeper level why the difficulties in my life are actually for my benefit. So the first thing I really want to talk to you about is I want to make a difference between struggle and difficulty. Because initially, when I started outlining this podcast, I just kept using the word struggle, talking about our struggles, our struggles, our struggles. But I started to realize that the word struggle, it indicates that we are fighting against life. It indicates that we are going against life. And that's not what we want to do. When we're struggling, we're resisting. We're choosing not to accept our life and we're fighting against it. But what Spirit has been showing me is that instead of struggling against something, we need to move into accepting what is, giving up that resistance, giving up that resistance, and just accepting that things are difficult right now, just accepting that things aren't going the way that we anticipated, accepting that something made us feel upset or that some situation keeps occurring and just whatever is going on. It's this shift that Spirit's showing me from struggling against it and accepting what it is. And when we give up that resistance and choose to accept a situation, that doesn't mean that the situation suddenly becomes easy. The situation is still difficult, but instead of struggling against it and fighting against it, we are choosing to accept it for what it is. So struggle, I'm defining as fighting against something, but difficulty is just a difficult situation in your life. I feel like there's a lot less associated with the word difficulty. Difficulty is like a fact, it's neutral. It's not something that we need to fight against. And that is, I think, the best description for when hard things happen in our life. It's just a fact. Hard things happening is a fact of our life. But struggling against it just kind of makes it worse. It just makes it really difficult for us to accept the situation and see how we can move beyond it. So, what Spirit was showing me is just an encouragement to accept when things are difficult, admit that something is difficult for you, and instead of struggling against it, learning to work with it. And I also want to say we all experience difficult situations, but when we're experiencing something that feels really difficult, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong. Just because something is hard doesn't mean that it's wrong. Like, I'm going to use an example in a few minutes, but I'll just start sharing it right now. So an example that I really wanted to use for this episode is the fact that I've shared a little bit before, but my husband travels a lot for work. Sometimes it's for several months at a time, 2, 3, 4 months, sometimes 6 months at a time. He is traveling and I am here alone with our 3 kids. And it's really, really hard. It is really hard to go back and forth between parenting on my own and parenting with a partner. It's really hard just parenting on my own by myself. It's lonely. Like, it's really, really hard. And just because that situation is hard doesn't mean that it's wrong. It doesn't mean that it's supposed to be different. I used to always think if something was hard and difficult, I would think this is supposed to be different. It is not supposed to be this way. My life is not supposed to be that way. And I really want to counter that. I no longer believe that. I now believe that everything in my life is exactly what it's supposed to be. It's this radical acceptance of what is. Just because something is hard does not mean that it's wrong. These difficult situations, like my situation of having to parent on my own, and just, it's hard when your partner is gone. That's really lonely and it's difficult on our relationship. It makes me feel limited in like what I can do, and it's hard. And so that difficulty, though, I believe it's a necessary part of growth and change. Difficulties are just a normal part of our lives. It's essential. And like I'm saying, it's totally neutral. It doesn't mean that something is wrong. It doesn't mean that things have to change. It's just a fact. And it also just doesn't have to be a big deal. That doesn't mean it doesn't have to be hard, but we don't have to subscribe to all of the drama in our mind that goes on when things are difficult. Like, we don't have to spend our time thinking this is supposed to be different, this isn't fair, and all of those thoughts that come in when we are in that struggle. And so instead, when you were having a difficult situation, what I try to think about and what I encourage you to think about is, what is this difficult situation trying to teach me? What is the lesson in this? And what is the gift in this? What is the gift in this? I worked with a healer earlier this year, and she really had me look at some super difficult things that had happened in my life, like in when I was a young adult, and just some really hard experiences that I had. She had me look at those areas, and she asked me, what is the gift in this? And I realized that even though I had gone through some traumatic experiences, there really was there really were gifts in those experiences. There really were lessons and beauty in them. It doesn't mean that those experiences weren't traumatic or difficult, or that my feelings I experienced in them weren't valid. It just means that there's more to the picture. There can be a fuller picture. And instead of holding on to difficult situations with this sense of sort of feeling like I'm cheated or feeling like I've been wronged in some way, instead of holding on to it with all of that heavy negativity, I can just accept the situation for what it was and see the gift that it has provided me. It can be a lighter way to just connect with that experience, to have that experience as part of who I am, without all of the heaviness of feeling like it was wrong. So, like the example I was sharing, the fact that my husband travels a lot, so much, and it's been that way our entire marriage. We've been married for 12 years now. And so this is something that I have had so many feelings about the whole time, because it's really hard to have a partner who's just not there. And because of the situation with him frequently being gone, I often felt abandoned. I was feel lonely and overwhelmed and unsupported, and really like I have no control over my life, because I don't have any say from when he leaves and when he comes back. I don't have any say over his schedule. It can be incredibly unpredictable. We can find out a week in advance that he's going to be gone for several weeks. And it's just like, talk about feeling like you don't have control. It's so hard to plan anything. It's just difficult. And that is an area of my life where 1000% I felt like a victim. I felt like it was happening to me. Like, why is this happening to me? This shouldn't be this way. This isn't fair. Other people don't have to experience this. Other people have, more connected relationships. They have more present partners. Like, why does this have to be my experience? Why do I have to have something so difficult in my life? And with this situation, it's taken a lot for me to come around to the fact that it is neutral and that I don't need to struggle against it. Because when I was constantly struggling against the fact that my husband travels a lot, I was feeling really negative toward his travel schedules. I was struggling against the fact that this is just our reality. This is our reality for now. I was struggling against it in the way that I treated my husband, in the way that I talked about his travel schedule, which was, with a lot of passive aggressive comments here and there, struggling against it by just wallowing and having a pity party about having to spend time alone and doing things on my own, and really just feeling down about it and feeling like it was wrong and refusing to just accept that this is what is. But once I was able to see that I had painted myself as such a victim in this situation, and I was able to start detaching myself from that victim identity in this situation, was able to just accept, at least starting to accept, that this is our reality. And once I could do that, I could start to see what is the gift in this. Well, the gift in this is the fact that I have learned how to be incredibly independent. I am incredibly resourceful. I have learned that I can take care of myself. I've also learned that I don't have to just take care of myself all the time. And it's okay for me to ask for help because, well, this situation of being on my own so often has required me to really learn kind of some extreme independence, I would say. It's also shown me that sometimes the load that I carry is too heavy for me to carry. And it has forced me to ask for help. And learning that it's okay for me to ask for help and to ask for support has been a huge lesson in my life. And because I feel like in some ways I was really forced into asking for help, things just got so difficult with my husband's travel schedule and caring for the kids. And so, because I was forced into asking for help, now I have this beautiful gift of support. Prior to that, I was just stuck feeling unsupported. I was feeling unsupported all the time. And what I realized after the fact is I was feeling unsupported because I wasn't asking for support. I wasn't seeking out the support that I needed. I was allowing myself to be a victim in that situation instead of using my abilities to solve that problem, to look for opportunities in that problem. Instead, I was so ingrained in this like a victim mentality where I have to do everything myself and nobody supports me and I'm all alone. I was so stuck in that I wasn't able to see there were opportunities for things to be easier for me. Once I accepted the situation and said, okay, I would really like some help, and then finally allowed assistance in, oh my God, what a gift! What a gift being able to have help and be on the other side of that and have support. So, it's just a few aspects of that situation and how, yes, it's difficult, but there's been so many incredible gifts in it. Also, now the time that I get to spend with my husband and that we get to spend as a family, it is so important to us and we really value our time together. We value our time together because we know that it is limited. And so our connections as a family have grown even stronger because we recognize our time together is so important and we are not guaranteed forever. We're not guaranteed all of this time together. And so, anyways, those are just some of the gifts that I was able to come around to in that difficult situation. It doesn't mean that it's not hard when my husband's gone because it is really hard. It's still hard, but it's okay. It's okay. This is my reality. And as I move out of being the victim of that situation and into someone who is autonomous, who has power in that situation, I'm able to deal with that difficulty. I'm able to look for opportunities to make it not so difficult. I'm able to see the ways that this is teaching me things and really pushing me to grow in who I am. So I hope that example is helpful for you in understanding what I mean by saying that we don't need to be struggling against things, but instead we can work with that difficulty. And I feel like that's what I'm doing now. Now I feel like I'm able to better work with that difficulty, to see what it's trying to teach me and actually let myself start to try to learn those lessons and grow in those areas where things feel hard. So I'm not encouraging you to deny that life is difficult or to pretend that things are easy, but to accept difficulty as a natural part of life and to flow with it, to work with it, to think like this is really hard. And It's okay for me to do things that are hard. It's okay that this is hard. That doesn't mean that anything is wrong. It just means I am being guided to a lesson. I am being asked to grow. I'm being asked to expand. And maybe you're meant to learn more resilience. Maybe you're meant to learn more independence. Maybe you're meant to learn to love yourself more, or to respect yourself, or to ask for help. There are a million possibilities for what these difficult situations are meant to teach us. But when we allow ourselves to see the gift within our difficulties, we're able to step out of that victim mode that I've been talking about. And we are able to stop feeling so helpless and stop believing that life is just happening to us without any input from us. And instead, when we see that gift, when we choose to look for the gift, then we're choosing to work together with that difficulty, to work alongside it, and to accept it as a catalyst of our growth, accept it as an indicator pointing out an area of our life where we need to grow and heal and learn. In that way, our difficulties can truly be our biggest gifts. Doesn't mean that shit isn't hard sometimes, but it does mean that we can use those experiences for our own personal growth and our expansion. And as I talk about this, I just want to mention, maybe not mention, I want to emphasize, I guess, that you don't have to do this alone. There's no doing anything alone in this lifetime. If you want support from spirit, or if you don't, it doesn't matter. Spirit and universe is supporting you on this journey, on this path, through these difficulties, learning these lessons. Spirit is supporting you through that, providing you with love, providing you with guidance, and actually probably providing you with these difficult situations so that you can see what you need to see the areas where you need to grow, and the ways that your soul is really calling you to expand and develop and move forward. So, with that big explanation, I want to leave you with some steps that you can take when you are experiencing something difficult. And when I say experiencing something difficult, it can be a particular situation, like my situation with my husband constantly traveling, or it can be something that keeps reoccurring, like a pattern in your life. Like you notice you keep having the same problem in your friendships, or a similar problem in your relationships, or maybe you notice you keep getting into these experiences at work where people are taking advantage of you, or I don't know, anything like that, any sort of reoccurring situation or difficulty. That's what we're talking about. Anything that feels like a struggle in your life. So, the first thing that you can do is just to recognize when you're struggling and start to recognize when you're fighting against what is. If you noticed a pattern, or if something suddenly seems really significant and catches your attention, trust that that is for a reason. If something has been repeating and you notice the same thing keeps happening, there's a reason you're noticing it. Or if maybe one just difficult situation pops up and you're so fixated on it, there's a reason for that. The reason that you are having this awareness of what's happening, of these difficult situations, is because you're meant to look at it. You're meant to go deeper. It's spirit pointing out to you what needs to be healed and what areas you are being called to grow in. And like I said, this can be through repeating patterns, or maybe noticing that you have the same instinctual reaction to something every single time over and over, and it's just not very helpful. Or it can just be a super strong awareness that suddenly comes to you. But if you start noticing things in your life, trust that the reason you're noticing them is because spirit is pointing them out to you. It's something that's being pointed out to heal, to deal with, and start looking for you might not really need to look for. Start just being aware of areas in your life where you feel some struggle, where you feel that resistance, and examine those areas. Go a little deeper and sort of start playing with the idea of, what if instead of resisting the situation, I just chose to accept it? What if I just chose to accept it? What would that look like? And start playing with that and working through that in your mind. What we're talking about today is not this like fast, quick process. It's not like you realize, oh, okay, I've been struggling and now I'm not going to struggle and I'm going to accept and I'm going to grow and move forward. It just, it doesn't work that quickly. This is a process of learning to shift the way that we have been existing in the world up until this point. If you're like me, okay, and your entire life up until you're like, I don't know, 28, 30, your whole life, you have just been responding to everything as if you were the victim. If you have been spending 30 years or 25 years or 20 years of your life painting yourself into this victim picture, that is not going to change in a day, in a week, in a month. You have 30 years of your brain learning to respond in this way. And it's going to take time and repetition and commitment to shift how you react and how you exist in the world. I just want to be, straight with you. Like, healing is a lifelong process. And what we're talking about right now is a lifelong journey of self-improvement, of growth, of soul expansion, and of learning to exist in this lifetime in the absolute best possible way that we can, and learning to live out this beautiful soul self of us that we have inside, learning to live out and live from that place. It's a lifelong journey. As you are going through this journey and you start really exploring and opening up that awareness, the second thing I want to just say to you is that you are not alone in this experience. I want you to really know that you're supported through this healing, through this growth, and spirit is supporting you through that. And as you are brought to these situations and to the awareness of things where you need to shift how you've been existing in order to grow and move forward, know that when those things are brought to your attention, there's absolutely no judgment. Spirit isn't pointing things out and saying, you're wrong. That's never the vibe. Instead, Spirit is bringing it to you and offering you the opportunity to grow and to change. There's no judgment. It's totally neutral. There's never any intention or any, like, Spirit isn't pointing things out in order to shame you or to make you feel guilty. It's all neutral. And just keep in mind that every single human being on the planet, including the most spiritual, holy person that exists, still has things that they're working through in areas of life where they can learn and heal and grow. And it's all neutral. It's all just a fact. And there's never any judgment from Spirit about things you've done that maybe you feel like is a mistake or anything like that. Spirit's only providing support. Spirit's only bringing these areas to your attention to help you move forward, to help you grow, to help you move into that incredible life that is a possibility for you while you spend your time here on earth. And the fact that Spirit is bringing these difficulties to you is a form of support, because it's really providing you with the opportunity to grow and change and expand if you choose. Always if you choose. There's always free will. There's never a wrong choice. It is always your choice if you choose to move into healing or if you choose not to. There's always a choice from Spirit. And so moving on with this, the next thing that I want to suggest that you do, after you have started coming into an awareness of maybe an area of your life where you have been struggling and resisting, You are now working on getting some acceptance in that area, accepting your reality. You are allowing yourself to feel the support of spirit as you deal with this area of your life, start accepting it and start truly seeing it in a more neutral way. And now, what I would encourage you to do is to start choosing differently. Start being more intentional about your reactions, about the way that you behave, the behaviors that you choose in response to this difficulty that is coming up in your life. And these changes, like I said, it's going to happen slowly. Maybe first, this this change that you make, it's just in your thoughts. Once we are able to really start recognizing our thoughts, then we can start changing our actions to align our actions with the growth that we want. But I really do want to point out that growth, healing, expansion, and really moving into this soul aligned way of living, it does require action. It does require some kind of action. So we do eventually need to move beyond just thinking and into doing and making these intentional steps forward toward where we want to go. Now, the last thing that I want to leave you with is that I really want you to know that this is a lifelong journey. Just like I mentioned a little bit ago, I want to encourage you to trust that your path is exactly right for you. You're being supported every step of the way, and you're always exactly where you're meant to be. You're not meant to move faster. You're not meant to be farther ahead. Your life isn't meant to be different right now. Everything's exactly as it's supposed to be, and you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And if you can move into believing that, at least believing that as much as you can, life becomes so much less drama because there's no struggling against what is. It's just this beautiful acceptance of what is and this knowledge that the path that you are on is the exact right path for you, for your individual, unique experience of this lifetime. I also want to remind you, wherever you are on your path right now, you need to be proud of who you are, of how far you've come, the journey you've already been on. I really want to encourage you to feel gratitude toward yourself for the journey that you have already experienced, because I can pretty much guarantee that you've already had to go through some really difficult experiences in your lifetime. And I want you to give yourself gratitude for having walked through those experiences and come to the place that you are right now. Even if you think you're not where you want to be, the truth is you're farther along than you were before. And I really want to encourage you to give yourself some appreciation, give yourself some recognition, take time to reflect on how far you've come and give yourself some love, recognizing that this journey you're on, it's never ending. There is not some place at the end where suddenly you're just this healed magical being. I guess that's death. Do you want to wait until death to celebrate? I don't think so. So start appreciating yourself right now. Start loving yourself right now and give yourself the recognition of the fact that, yeah, this life is hard and I'm freaking doing it. Look at what I've done. Look where I've come from. Look how far I've been. And I know that those experiences that I've had are what is going to help lead me forward, push me forward, and keep bringing me closer to this magical soul aligned life that I am working for. So, my friend, I really hope that today's episode has given you a bit of a perspective shift on struggle, on difficulty in life. And I hope that it will help you to start to see that those difficult situations in your life are a gift for you to learn and grow and heal. I really hope that this supports you on your journey of spiritual development, of personal development, and of just learning how to exist as a human in this world. I really hope that you feel supported. And as you've listened, if there are any questions you have or you want to chat about this further, just go ahead and find me over on Instagram at Suddenly Spiritual, and I am so happy to chat with you more. All right, have a wonderful day. Know that you are in complete power of how you react in your life, of the way that you choose to experience things. You don't have to be the victim. You can be in complete power of your reality, acceptance of your reality, and choose to move forward with awareness and intention. And I love you so much. You're so supported on the way. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Suddenly Spiritual podcast. I'm so grateful that I get to be part of your journey of spiritual expansion. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you would leave a review for me on Apple Podcasts. It's a quick, free, easy way for you to support this podcast, and it helps me reach more people who are looking for support on their spiritual journey. You can find a link to leave a review in the show notes. Thank you so much, and I'll chat with you soon.